Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us this Wednesday. Let us know where you're coming from, how your day has been, what did you have for lunch? We want to know everything. We're really excited today to be joined by the Xero team for one of their very popular MTD IT webinars. This one is all about change management. We are recording the session today, so you'll receive a copy of the recording afterwards, and ICB members will get their CPD automatically added to their record. So yep, make sure you're logging your CPD. Chili and March ham sandwich. This is the important information I want to hear about. And obviously, you will be able to hear more from the Xero team at the Bookkeepers Summit in November. If you haven't booked your tickets yet for the Bookkeepers Summit, please make sure you do that because we are not long to go. We've got virtual options. We're coming to London. We're going to be around all week. So there's many opportunities for you to get involved at the Bookkeepers Summit this year. So hello, everyone. Everyone's freezing. I think I'm in London today. Usually I'm coming to webinars from Bristol, but I've been in London. I think it's the last day I sat outside and had lunch and had a lovely autumnal day. So I imagine I'll be back to being freezing later. So as I said, we are joined by Jen and Dan from the Xero team, and I'm just going to hand over to them now because they've got an amazing presentation lined up for you. If you have any questions, do keep using the chat and the Q&A, and we'll all be keeping an eye out on that. So thank you, everyone, and thanks, Jen and Dan.
Thank you. So hello, everyone, and a very warm welcome to our webinar. My name is Jennifer, and I've been a partner consultant here at Xero for almost 2 years. Everybody in our partner consulting team worked in practice before we joined Xero. So I was just saying before the meeting there that I came from a bookkeeping background myself. So please feel free to say hi to us. Tell us where you're from in the chat box. I'm sure you can tell by my accent, I'm from Northern Ireland and I worked in accountancy practice in Northern Ireland for almost 10 years before joining Xero, but I obviously had my software preference. I'm joined by my colleague Dan, if you want to say hi as well, Dan.
Cool. Afternoon, everyone. Yeah, great to be on the webinar today. Same kind of background as Jennifer, really. So previously in a large accounting practice before joining Xero. But I can actually see that there's someone in the chat that's from Herne Bay. So I'm actually based in Kent myself, but I'm actually like further up the M2, closer to London as well. So opposite ends to Jennifer in terms of the UK. But I'm mainly here today to be honest, to go through the Q&As for you as well. So feel free to pop any questions, even as we're going through the webinar today, into the Q&A box there, and I'll try and get through and answer as many as I can. There is also going to be some time at the end of the webinar for any Q&A, so if I don't manage to answer your question as we're going through, depends how many we get as we're going through, I will hope to answer some of them live for you as well, especially if we see sort of some repeat questions coming from people today. But what I'll do is just going to hand back to Jennifer and I'll let her get the webinar started for you.
I see in the chat there, we have someone from Craigavon, Northern Ireland, which isn't far from me, and then someone who's joining us from Australia as well. So that's amazing. That's a great reach. Before we dive in, just a little bit of housekeeping. The ICB will be sending a recording of today's session afterwards, so you can relax and don't worry about taking frantic notes. We do want this to be interactive, so as Dan said, please feel free to use the Q&A box you should see on your screen. Pop in any questions as we go, and we'll have some time at the end to answer questions as well. So change has always been a constant in our industry, but right now it feels like the pace is faster than ever. And we know that standing on the horizon is this making tax digital for income tax shift, which is obviously a very big opportunity for bookkeepers. For many of you, the mere mention of MTD for income tax might bring a mix of feelings. Like, how did it feel when I said it to you there? Perhaps a bit of uncertainty, maybe a bit of concern about your client readiness, or even just the sheer thought of another workflow transformation. And we get that. But at Xero, we believe that that at the heart of every great challenge lies an even greater opportunity. An opportunity to refine your processes, to strengthen your client relationships, and to solidify your role, not just as a client expert, but as an indispensable digital advisor. That's exactly what we're here to talk about today. This is about giving you insights to proactively manage the change in your practice or in your jobs. So Before we dive into today, I would invite everybody to give themselves the gift of basically peace and quiet. Close down all your tabs. I know that I literally had to do that 10 seconds before we went on. It's just the way we work now. Close down your Teams or your Slack, turn your phone upside down, whatever you need to do. Let's get the most out of this session and give ourselves the gift of focus. So if we can just take a few seconds to do that now. And as we've said before, we've the Q&A feature. This is the easiest way to get messages over to us today. So the great thing about it is you can also see others' questions. So if you see a question you also want answered, you can click the little thumbs up icon to upvote it, and that way we will know that this is a popular question. So let's take a look at today's agenda. Firstly, we have an overview of the impact of making tax digital for income tax, a high-level overview on what's changing from once-a-year touch points with clients to quarterly updates and that final declaration. Then we will be looking at preparing your practice and discussing the key considerations when supporting teams through the change, managing resistance and planning. Then we will look at the benefits of making tax digital for income tax. It isn't just a compliance hurdle, it's a catalyst for modernisation. We'll be discussing how this shift can lead to incredible efficiencies, more accurate data for advisory services, and ultimately stronger, more collaborative relationships with your clients. Then we will look at how to guide your clients through the evolution. Your clients will be looking to you for confidence and clarity. We'll provide you with communication strategies and key talking points to help you lead these conversations effectively, turning a legislative requirement into a demonstration of your value as their trusted advisor. At the end of the session, we'll also provide you with a link to our MTD for Income Tax Action Plan. So let's start by taking a look at the impact of making tax digital for income tax and those core changes. There are three core principles of the overall initiative of making tax digital. The first is keeping digital records. You may be in a position where your landlord and sole trader clients are already doing this, which is great, but for the majority of you, they probably aren't. Say goodbye to those scattered spreadsheets. Those alone won't be enough. They'll need to be a digital source of truth. The second thing is increase in frequency of reporting. So this is a big one for you and the small businesses, meaning there is work required throughout the year rather than the traditional process of doing this once annually. And probably us as bookkeepers, we're more used to doing things more regularly anyway. It's maybe more a bigger shift to those who just prepare once a year for tax returns. Thirdly, making tax digital for income tax compatible software. So this is required in order to manage, track and send the submission over to HMRC. It's more important than ever to think about digital accounting and bookkeeping solutions. Now, it's easy to see this all through the lens of compliance and preparation, just as a list of tasks to go through. But I want us to shift our perspective now. Let's move from the how-to to the what if. What if this change wasn't just a hurdle to overcome, but a significant opportunity waiting to be seized? The great news is we're not the only ones to see it that way. In fact, the feeling across the entire industry is incredibly positive. Earlier this year, we released our Xero UK Accounting and Bookkeeping Industry Report for 2025. And we specifically asked your peers how they felt about the impact of making tax digital for income tax. And the findings were quite striking. As you can see on the screen, a huge 82% of accountants and bookkeepers believe that MTD for income tax will directly help them win new clients. Now let's just think about that for a second. That's not a small minority. That is an overwhelming view of the industry. So where does this confidence come from? It comes from recognizing that expertise is a powerful magnet. As the deadlines get closer, sole traders and landlords who have put this off will be actively searching for an expert to guide them. By being prepared, your position as the go-to solution for those who need to get digital ready. It's a powerful differentiator, but the story gets even better. It's not just about growth, it's about strengthening your current relationships. The report also found that 81% of you expect that making tax digital for income tax will lead to higher client satisfaction. And when you break it down, it's easy to see why. Firstly, it gives better financial insights, which you can lead to informed business decision making. Secondly, it transforms your relationship. The move to quarterly updates creates natural, regular touchpoint, and the conversation evolves from a single historic year-end review into ongoing, forward-looking advisory based on fresh, accurate data. The really fascinating question is, who is choosing what way of working? It's not a random split. And again, I refer to our 2025 industry report that shows your strategy for making tax digital for income tax. And it seems to be heavily influenced on the size of the practice. So let's break it down because it tells a compelling story about strategy and scale. If we start on the left, the total view, 59% intend to provide the full service, handling both quarterly updates and the end of year filing. This leaves the client the responsibility of digital record keeping. In contrast, nearly a third, at 32%, plan to split the work, with clients managing the quarterly updates while the practice focuses on the year-end tasks. And as you can see, 8% of practices overall plan not to serve MTD impacted clients. Now let's take a look at the next chart for sole practitioners. The trend flips completely. The most popular option here is the shared model, with 48% of sole practitioners choosing to have clients handle their own quarterly updates. This makes perfect sense for a sole practitioner. This scalable model empowers clients and frees up your capacity to focus on high-level review and finalisation. 43% of sole practitioners are planning to deliver the full service. Now let's just see what happens as the practice grows. For small and medium-sized firms, the pendulum swings firmly back to the full service model. 58% of small practices and 59% of medium practices are taking this approach. This suggests that as teams grow, there's a greater capacity and desire to own the entire process, ensuring quality control and creating more advisory touchpoints. Finally, the trend becomes undeniable when we look at large firms. A commanding 70% of them intend to deliver the full MTD service. It's a clear strategic decision to offer a premium end-to-end practice in this segment. Only 2% of this firms plan not servicing MTD clients, showing an almost universal commitment to this market. So the key takeaway here is that there is no one-size-fits-all answer. The data shows that your peers are making deliberate choices based on their business model and capacity. The critical step for you is to decide which path aligns with your goals, so you can build your pricing, your processes, and your client communication around that. So just to recap, there are 3 key change principles under MTD for income tax. 1, keeping digital records. 2, increase in frequency of reporting. And 3, MTD compatible software. So let's take a look now at preparing your practice. So these slides that I'm about to present are very impactful. I've presented them a few times and honestly, they are very impactful. So let's take a look at the effect MTD for income tax will have on your workload in that first year when you've both retrospective 25-26 tax returns and 26-27 real-time quarterly updates. Our red line shows the personal tax workload for 25-26 tax returns across the year. A slight peak in April when our subcontractor clients are looking their CIS refund. Then the majority of personal tax returns are prepared during October and January in that tax season that we're just entering. Many firms have worked hard to even out this peak and make the workload more manageable by preparing tax returns earlier in the year, but it is still a very common pattern. And even if you aren't involved directly in tax returns, even I'm sure you feel that around you in other colleagues. Now let's look at the 26-27 real-time quarterly updates with our yellow line. Quarterly returns are in line with the tax year. So all Making Tax Digital for income tax eligible clients will need their first return for the 6th of April to the 5th of July 26, processed in July and submitted by the 7th of August. It's worth noting here, Making Tax Digital for income tax returns require a quarter of the transactions currently being processed once a year. And as such, this should not mean 4 Januaries. But if a new process is not implemented successfully with staff and clients, then it could start to feel that way, and nobody wants 4 Januaries. Definitely not. Then there is the final declaration. This is where other forms of income such as investment or savings are disclosed and any claims for relief are submitted. The final declaration is due on the 31st of January along with payment. Will you complete this with the quarter four return in April or continue the traditional personal tax return workflow process in tax season? Now we are clear what the first year will look like with MTD for income tax. Let's consider your timeline to get your practice and your clients ready for changes. So we're now looking at this current year we're in. We've obviously seen this red line for next year, but we're sitting around October now, so we're entering that busy tax season. We've done our subcontractor CIS returns. We've had our lull over the summer. Not that it ever really quietens down, but there's always something to do. But in terms of our tax workload, things will be ramping up now. Our blue line is showing capacity of staff to proactively discuss the upcoming changes with clients and do any client setups before our busy tax season. So as you see, obviously should have good availability of staff now, but obviously coming up to Christmas and then into January, we're super busy with tax returns. So then from February, things do pick up again. This means you only have a couple of months of capacity at the end of sort of now, from the summer to now, for your team to engage with clients about these upcoming changes. At its heart, preparing for Making Tax Digital for income tax is about leading a fundamental shift in how we work. It's about transforming practice operations from manual to digital. This perfectly contrasts the old world with the new. On the left on this slide, we have the traditional tax return service. This is a world we know all too well, and it's defined by manual input and a lack of insights, making it difficult to offer proactive advice. It comes with the real cost of manual record keeping and storage. We can all picture the folders and boxes of receipts. I know I can. And most importantly, in today's environment, this way of working carries an increased risk of non-compliance. But MTD is the catalyst to move to the world on the right, the world of cloud accounting. This is where everything changes for the better. Instead of manual input, we have automation, easy to use software and powerful analytics. Instead of being tied to a desk, there is integration with business applications on any device, just like the phone you see here. And best of all, this leads directly to improved client collaboration and creates genuine advisory opportunities. This isn't just about ticking a compliance box. It's about leaving the risks and inefficiencies of the past behind to embrace a more connected, collaborative, and insightful way of working with your clients. To recap, there are a few internal jobs to be done. And obviously, I've been encouraging practices I work with to do what you can do now. Do what you can do now so it's not a panic come closer to the time. And when you don't know where to start, we know only too well how this feels. So we will provide, at the end, we'll put up a webinar or a QR link, and you can get access to our MTD for IT action plan if you wish to support you. But let's take a look at the benefits to the practice of MTD. Of course, the burden of MTD is not something to be taken lightly at all. However, there is some silver lining in those clouds, and here are a few ways that making tax digital for income tax could end up benefiting your practice if you're open to seizing that opportunity. First of all, modernizing your work, modernizing your clients. Using automation and technology smartly will provide efficiency and speed of collaboration with your clients. And data gathering, otherwise the sheer quantity of filings per client, will be hard and expensive to manage, to the point where some clients may become undesirable to serve. In digital record keeping, no more shoe boxes. Or when I was in practice, I know somebody always came in with a cornflakes box. It's the perfect time to get your practice and your clients paperless. Some practices may ask their clients to go digital only for tracking expenses and invoices. There's the opportunity of taking client relationships to the next level. So more frequent interactions due to the frequency of reporting, which will allow the practice to look at digital communications as much as possible to keep up. Accountants and bookkeepers will be able to deepen their relationships by building a more ongoing interaction and also offering the opportunity for added value services. There's also a big opportunity to acquire new clients if your practice is interested in new self-assessment clients. It is expected MTD for income tax will push many sole traders and landlords to use an accountant where they hadn't previously. Your practice needs to decide if this kind of customer is appealing to them. Is it financially viable? Your practice can start to think about positioning to these new potential clients and what will your offer be? And the added value services, what can you offer there? Now let's take a look at some of the ways we have traditionally used for those self-assessment once a year clients. We've had high workload pressures during peak self-assessment periods. Difficulty in gaining and chasing missing information from clients, exaggerated by the time lapse since the transactions occurred. Receiving data in various formats, leading to multiple workflows, documentation storage issues, and manual transcription from hard copies. Multiple unique client workflows, making it challenging and time-consuming for staff to understand and pick up jobs before commencing fee-earning work. To fully appreciate the positive change that making tax digital for income tax brings, I think what's important here is we're honest about the process we're leaving behind. For many of you, this screen shows the current manual self-assessment workflow, which will be all too familiar to a lot of us. It's a process that often feels like a constant stressful loop of chasing information. But let's break it down. It all starts with the information request. First, you have to gather the information by contacting multiple clients. You then need to brace yourself because you must be prepared for the information to arrive in various formats. The shoebox, the spreadsheet, the carrier bag, all full of receipts. Inevitably, you then have to chase any missing information, acknowledging that some of it may be lost due to the amount of time that's passed. And finally, you have to find a way to efficiently store all of this information, whether from physical documents or emails. Once you've wrestled through all of that, you move to the main workflow. This involves having to manually analyze information, including bank statements. You then collate information from all those various sources into the tax return. And just when you think you're getting somewhere, you're back to chasing missing information during the preparation, and this cycle continues. Only after all that do you obtain authorization from clients and you can finally file that self-assessment. Looking at this all laid out, it's deeply reactive, fragmented, and inefficient. It's stressful for you and your clients. This is the very cycle that digital tools and MTD for income tax are designed to break, moving us from that annual scramble to a much more collaborative and continuous way of working. Xero transforms practice operations from manual to digital processes. To list a few key features, the need for digital record keeping, a bank feed for real-time information. And in terms of making tax digital, I'm running around the country at the moment saying that bank feeds are the secret for making tax digital for income tax. So I think it's a really high value thing for making tax digital. Clients can add sales invoices and they can get paid faster by using payment services. So that pay now button that is on the Xero invoices now. HubDoc to capture expenses and automate processing, and all business versions of Xero will process MTD for income tax, including the quarterly updates and the final declaration. You can get an overview of making tax digital for income tax obligations in our tax manager. Beyond that, let's talk about enhanced compliance and accuracy. So let's automate our data capture. Xero's robust data capture capabilities, including bank feeds and HubDoc invoice scanning, minimize manual data entry, ensuring the accuracy and of financial records. Real-time visibility, so financial data is updated in real time, providing an accurate and up-to-date picture of a business's tax position at any given moment. This allows for proactive identification and correction of discrepancies before they become a compliance issue. Direct submission to HMRC, so Xero is MTD compliant, allowing for direct and secure submission of making tax digital for income tax. Updates and final declaration to HMRC, eliminating the risk of human error associated with manual uploads or rekeying. Also, we've a comprehensive digital audit trail and it's automatically maintained within Xero. So detailing all those transactions and changes, which is invaluable for demonstrating compliance. Then we have increased efficiency and time savings. The integration of Xero into the Making Tax Digital for Income Tax workflow creates a seamless flow of financial data from source transactions to submissions, drastically reducing the time spent on admin tasks. Reduced manual tasks, so the automation of tasks such as bank reconciliation, expense categorization, data feeding back from HMRC to give in-year tax calculations, and no more chasing P60s. Improved collaboration, so cloud-based access allows for real-time collaboration between business owners, accountants and bookkeepers, eliminating delays caused by sharing physical documents or outdated spreadsheets. And proactive tax planning, so the clear visibility of financial performance enables businesses to undertake more effective tax planning, identifying opportunities for legitimate tax efficiencies and avoiding surprises. Also, let's talk about the enhanced security and accessibility. So anytime, anywhere access. As a cloud-based platform, Xero it provides secure access to financial data from any internet-connected device, enabling flexible working arrangements and remote collaboration. Also, moving to this digital workflow significantly reduces the need for storing and managing physical documents, enhancing security and minimizing the risk of loss or damage. So to recap on some of those key benefits for your practice, to grow and modernize your practice and improve your client relationships, taking them to the next level. There are also key benefits in digitizing, allowing us to overcome our current pain points with chasing information, more consistent workloads, and working with real-time information. Let's talk more about that thing called change. It can often feel like it comes out of nowhere, but it's almost always driven by a few key forces we can see on this slide. And this breaks it down into the 4 of the most common drivers that we see impacting accounting and bookkeeping today. First of all, we have technology. So this one is constantly evolving. New developments, especially with AI, can have a significant and positive impact on any business. We see this every day in how cloud tools automate processes and provide deeper insights, fundamentally changing how we work for the better. The second driver and the primary reason we're here today is compliance. This is when change is mandated by new legislation being rolled out by the government. Making tax digital, of course, the textbook example of compliance-driven change that is reshaping our industry. Moving from the bottom left, a key internal driver of your own is your own business goals. When your practice goals and objectives aren't being met, change is required to close those gaps. Perhaps you want to increase profitability or improve team capacity. That need forces you to reevaluate your own processes and services. And finally, we have your competition. Sometimes pressure from competitors can force a change simply to keep up with client demand and expectations. If other practices are offering more advisory services or a slicker digital experience, it raises the bar for everyone. So you can see that while making tax digital is our focus, it's happening in the bigger picture. The most successful practices are the ones that don't just react to a single driver like compliance, but build a strategy that embraces technology, meets their business goals, and stays ahead of their competition. We've discussed external and internal forces that drive change, but what does it actually feel like to go through a major shift, like making tax digital for income tax? I was, of course, in practice when MTD for VAT came in, so I remember that well. And in fact, I was in practice when real-time information came in for payroll as well. It's all huge changes, and it's not just a practical process of updating software and workflows. It can be a deeply emotional journey. The model we see on screen is a powerful tool for understanding that journey. It's the change curve based on the work of Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, and we often refer back to this at Xero. It maps our morale and competence over time when we're faced with change. The most important thing it shows is that it's normal to go through a dip. The path to embracing change is very rarely a straight line. As we talk through these stages, you might recognize them in yourself, your team, or your clients. So if we look at phase one on the left-hand side, this is where change is introduced. It often starts with a surprise, which can quickly be followed by denial. A feeling of this won't really affect my practice, or HMRC will just push this back again. As this reality sets in, this can lead to frustration and even anger that you might move to bargaining and self-blame with thoughts like, if only I'd started preparing earlier. Throughout this phase, you can see that morale and competence take a significant hit. This leads us down to the bottom of the curve, which is phase two. This is where we hit a low point, which the model calls depression. This is where the challenge can feel its most overwhelming. But this is also the critical turning point. From here, we begin experimentation. We're now starting to test new processes, like trying out MTD specific software features and tentatively exploring how this new world might work. And a lot of the practices that I'm working with in the UK, I would say this is where a lot of them are at the moment. Some are ahead, some are ready, and some are still putting their head in the sand and not looking at it. But the majority, I would say, are at this experimentation stage. The experimentation is then the first step up to phase three. Through trying new things, we begin to find our footing and reach, and then we reach acceptance. We start to see the logic and benefits we discussed earlier, and finally, we achieve integration, which is the new way of working. It just becomes the way things are done. It's second nature. And I always compare this in my own head to, again, RTI submissions for payroll. Like when I first heard they were coming in, I was like, what, we have to do a year end every payroll? But now we don't think about it. We just do it. Notice where the curve ends though. Morale and competence are higher than when they started. We've learned and grown through this process. We show you this to normalize your journey. If you're feeling stuck in the dip, it's okay. It's part of the process. The key is to recognize where you are and to create the space for experimentation, as this is the first step towards the climb. To recap, let's bring all this together. To navigate change with ease, you need to agree a vision. Identify all stakeholders, so managers, staff, clients. Communicate vision and changes effectively. Build a plan where collaboration is key, including training, support, and resources. Capture feedback, learn and adapt. Measure results and communicate wins. Build advocacy. It's important to acknowledge that this process is continuous and will develop and evolve over a period of time. It's important to communicate that to your team, to set expectations that the change isn't a magic switch that we can switch overnight. It's a process to get from current ways of working to new ways of working and to grow opportunities. Improve ideas that need to be improved and solve pain points and address areas of dissatisfaction. So now we've established the need to move away from that painful manual process and some of the key benefits to your workflow. But how do we actually guide our clients across the bridge from the old world to the new? And I suppose a lot of us would argue this is the hardest part. This is where your role as a trusted advisor becomes more critical than ever. A key factor in change management is ensuring you consider and address the question, what's in it for me? In the external world, think of all the complexity and noise. HMRC, software updates, the technical jargon. For a small business owner, that can be incredibly overwhelming. For your practice, your role is absorb all that complex external information, filter it, simplify it, and translate it into a clear, actionable plan for each client. You are the signal in the noise. You turn complex rules into a simple, here's what this means for you, and here's what we need to do next conversation. By doing this, you shield your clients from the stress and confusion of the change. And as you can see, when the practice successfully manages the flow of information, the result for everyone is success. This means compliant, confident clients and a stronger, more valuable relationship with you as their bookkeeper. Thinking about what's in it for me, your clients can't just see this about as compliance. They need to see the real tangible benefits for them. On the screen, we've outlined some of the key value propositions you can share with them to turn the MTD conversation from a challenge into an opportunity. Let's start with the one thing business owners want more of, and that is time. Digitization and Xero's automation features will dramatically save time by reducing what they spend on admin tasks. This allows them to focus on their core business activities and improve work-life balance. Next, we solve the headache of paperwork with Capture on the Go. There's no need to waste time storing and searching for missing receipts and invoices. By snapping photos of receipts as they go, their data seamlessly flows straight through to you, their accountant. And I know there can be some resistance with clients on that point about taking the photo, downloading the app. But I have a colleague at Xero that says, well, if you can take photos of your grandkids, you can take photos of receipts. A huge point of stress for any business is cash flow. And this is a benefit that really resonates. You can get them paid faster. Features like online invoicing and integrated payment services streamline the entire payment process, which directly helps to improve their cash flow. And finally, perhaps the most powerful benefit of all is clarity. With up-to-date digital records, your clients get access to real-time financial data that provides clear business insights. This enables them to make better and more informed business decisions. So you're not just talking about tax, you're offering them more time, less stress, faster payments, and better clarity to run a better business. So we've covered a lot today, from the drivers of change to the practical ways to support your clients. As we wrap up, I want to leave you with a final perspective to this journey, a reminder that this sort of thing isn't new to any of us. Let's go back 20 years when what's on the screen here was normal. Your connection with the world was a Nokia or a BlackBerry phone. You paid with things with cash, and most of the time had to go physically to a bank that closed at 4:30. And your Friday night entertainment was a trip to Blockbuster, or for those from Northern Ireland, Extravision, hoping they would had the movie that you wanted in stock. This was our reality, and it was manual, it was full of friction, but it was what we knew. Now fast forward to today, we've a phone in our pocket. We use card and tap to pay without a second thought, and Netflix and other streaming services have replaced our video stores. We have all navigated one of the biggest digital transformations in history and in our personal lives. We did it because the new way is easier, faster, and just better. The shift to making tax digital for income tax is the same principle. It's about moving from your Blockbuster to your Netflix, but for accounting. So, how do we successfully lead our practices and clients through the final part of this journey? It's all down to this human side of change. It starts with awareness, so we have to understand everybody's day-to-day challenges and identify current pain points. We must acknowledge the fear of unknown creates the biggest resistance, and you need to meet that fear with empathy and great clarity in your communications. From there, we build knowledge as advisors. It's our job to champion the vision of a better way of working and sharing proactive advantages with our clients. We do this by understanding best practice and leading with confidence. And this all leads to success. Success is achieved when we collaborate on the plan to tackle current challenges with our clients. It's about creating a space where welcome feedback and support, turning the compliance mandate into a true partnership. So thank you for joining us today. You've all navigated immense change before, and we know you can lead your clients through this transition with expertise and confidence. Xero can help with this every step of the way. And I'm going to invite Dan. I know he's been manning the Q&A in the background. So I'll see if there is open to any questions or if there's any common questions coming up. And I'll also just change our screen over to the MTD for Income Tax Action Plan as well, if you wish to scan that. So Dan, how have we got on in the Q&A?
I was going to say, we haven't actually had too many questions, so either that is such a good presentation from you, or everyone's an expert on MTD already. So I think
Great.
what would be quite good is maybe just to recap on the few questions that we had for.
Okay.
I know, Jennifer, on your webinar was a presentation was running through, obviously, scattered spreadsheets are probably not going to work now. So there will be the option for bridging software, but I think we've got to really think about is like actually MTD is a catalyst to change and hopefully get rid of them shoebox and duffel bag clients. I had them in the past and moved them onto software. And I think personally, the biggest change as well is that final tax return. That's going to need to be done through MTD compliant software. So the final declaration replaces self-assessment, and that's where any additional income sources and release will go on to. So you may be doing quarterly filings for their self-employment, for example, and come to the end of the tax year, and they also have company dividends and child benefit charge and bank interest and all them extra bits and pieces. That needs to be filed through MTD compliance software. It can't be done anymore via paper, sending it off in the post. They won't be able to access to their own HMRC personal tax accounts to file it through there, or the HMRC website. It's done through software. And I think personally, if you are managing that quarterly phase and the final declaration, that's going to be really difficult personally to do through a spreadsheet. And again, you may have some VAT registered clients already that you're doing on a spreadsheet and filing for VAT. But what if that VAT return is done on an accruals basis? But their MTD and their taxes is done on a cash basis. You're gonna be like, oh no, I'm gonna effectively kind of need two spreadsheets to keep on track of one for the VAT and then one for the MTD, and bring that all together. Like it's just going to take so much more time. So I think really like it's embracing the software and making sure that we're taking on board all of the benefits that they can bring to us as well. And just a little bit on deadlines as well. So again, that 31 January is still that final deadline to go through, the same as self-assessment, but as Jennifer run through on the graphs as well, where we're doing the 4 quarters, hopefully getting that information more regularly. Again, with the 4th quarter, it's an opportunity to say, oh, actually, I need these extra documents from you that I normally ask for, or please send me your mortgage statements or whatever that information is. And hopefully we can bring them forwards as well. So we've not got so much of a reliance around that November, December, January time for the final filing that's in there as well. We've had some more questions that are coming now that's in there as well. So are the thresholds falling under MTD still 30k and then 50k? So 26 is 50,000, 27 is 30,000, and 28 is 20,000. So if you're based in the south like I am, you probably only need a couple of properties and you'll be affected by at least by 2028. But no, yeah, so it's 50,000, 30, and then 20,000. Is MTD the final endpoint, or HMRC try to make changes again? So at the moment, it is just for your self-employment and rental. Like add the two together to get your turnover figure that's there as well. But we do know that HMRC have a longer roadmap, so it's likely to thing that you'll be seeing MTD for partnerships and other things as well. So I think really like Jennifer's run for it, it's about embracing the change, and we probably will enter a world where effectively all of our clients at some point, no matter what kind of structure they're on, if they need to make filings, like they're going to need to have some software that's in there as well. In terms of the quarters as well, you can follow the tax year, so you can do it from the 6th of April, or you can do the month end that's in there as well. If I'm following the tax, they're all due around the same time that's in there as well. So that's probably a key takeaway, is that the quarterly filings are all due around the same time. So other than your VATs, you might have some clients that are staggered on different VAT quarters. We won't really have staggering of quarters for MTD. So in the first example that Jennifer had there as well, so she was following and doing it from the 6th of April. So she was running all the way up from April and doing the first quarter. I'm trying to think now. I'm trying to work out in my head when your first final would have been due. It would have been the beginning of August, wouldn't it? So
August,
yeah,
yeah.
beginning of August. But really, probably the majority of your checking, your reconciliations, and making sure and things are all already in place probably would take place during July if we're treating it like a quarterly VAT return. But no, Jennifer, you've been recommending as well. It's just if we move things to monthly record keeping, it doesn't matter what obligation we've got coming up, whether it's VAT, it's MTD for income tax, or whatever that obligation is. If we can keep the records keeping up to date, and we're not kind of like chasing ourselves to make sure that we're getting everything to make sure that we're meeting that statutory filing deadline that's there as well.
Exactly that. And that is something that I'm saying quite frequently. It's, how do we, cause the MTD quarters are fixed, practices are saying, well, I'll move my VAT quarters so that I'm not like doubling up on work or anything like that. But then you have a very uneven workload. You have one very, very busy month every quarter, and then 2 quarters that are nowhere near as busy. So I have been saying to people, well, let's consider monthly bookkeeping just to keep things consistent in terms of our workflows.
Yeah, no, perfect. And I guess, yeah, just some other. Yeah, I think we've answered most of them that's through here. I'm just going to have a quick look through that's on here, but no, looks like it's all good. But like Jennifer's shown, we've got plenty of resources if you want to look through that's in there as well. Anyone that's already a Xero partner, you can find any of your contact details by logging into your Xero Central if you want to reach out for any more information on us specifically. But I think should we leave the webinar going for a couple of more minutes as well, just in case there's any more questions that come through as well. But obviously, happy to answer anything sort of like MTD income tax related on sort of a preparation, sort of like HMRC side, but also from that change management side. So any other questions, do feel free to pop them in the box as well.
Absolutely. You've been a very nice crowd. Sometimes when we're doing this webinar, Dan doesn't get up for air because there's so many questions.
Oh, any needs on when partnerships will be included as well. No formal dates or anything at all, but I would say be considerate that in 2028 for MT for income tax it's due to drop to that 20,000. So I would say that we probably were not likely to see partnerships until any time after that. So we've probably got plenty of time to make sure that we get our sole traders and we get our landlords onto software. We can get all that sorted before partnerships will be introduced at the moment. So yeah, we probably can park that one for now. But obviously, yeah, it's always about thinking about the benefits and actually, can we get them onto the software already that's on there now? Perfect. New one. So when the software is going to launch the connection to HMRC for MTD. So we're currently in the beta phase at the moment. So we're in the tax year that we're in at the moment. So the 25 to 26 tax year. The MTD beta is still open. From a Xero perspective, and from other softwares as well, you would need to register your client with HMRC first for the beta, and at HMRC's end, you would confirm them sources of income and get them registered ready for the beta, and then you would then be able to connect it up to the software to try that as well. The beta is obviously a great place to try it out as well, to see what these quarterly filings and the final declarations are going to look like before they are mandated. The other benefits is that there's no penalties. So if you you miss a deadline for filing a quarter, there's no penalties. And if you decided, actually, I'm just going to do the 1/4 filing and I'm happy with the software, and then just want to do self-assessment as normal at the end of the year, you absolutely can do. So I would say that the beta is a good place to come in and try the software. And maybe you've got a VAT registered sole trader, for example, already on the software. There's already record keeping that's taking place to get that VAT return filed. Hopefully, touch wood, the MTD filing should be really, really simple because the clients are already onboarded on the software. We have the record keeping ready for the VAT return. The MTD return will be kind of similar, but rather than boxes 1 to 9, we're just going to have our tax categories instead. So a VAT registered sole trader that's already on Xero is probably a perfect one to try for that beta. So it might be worth looking through a list of clients that you've got at the moment. You've got anyone that fits the bill, and they might be happy to be a guinea pig for you and just join up early. But benefits that you can say to the client is, actually, I can give you an in-year tax report as a benefit for you to let me trial you in terms of getting your filings done. Or you may be a bookkeeper as a sole trader yourself, and actually you could register yourself for the beta and do that with and sign up for the software as well and get that filed, and just gives you an opportunity to try the software and obviously feedback. And then again, if you're thinking about things like pricing as well, you can then have a good gauge of roughly how long you think that's going to take you as well. But no, good question there as well.
Amazing.
Perfect.
Great. Hello again.
Thank you so much. Yes, thank you so much. Pop writing down now. So thank you so much. I think that was really informative. And obviously, ICB members, just make sure you're talking to your clients, just make sure it's this open conversation. Is probably one of the best ways to start. Just make sure everyone's prepared for this period of change, but that it's not going to be scary and that you are very well, you're prepared for it. You've got your systems in place. So just to reiterate what's been said before, is that you are going to get a copy of this recording. And obviously, if you've not got a chance, now's your time to scan that QR code to get that MTD for IT action plan. But I just wanted to say thank you so much for joining us today. Thanks to Jen and Dan, that was really great. I hope everyone has a great afternoon.
Have a good afternoon, everybody.
Yeah, and thank you for having us as well.
Thank you.
Thanks all, goodbye.
Bye.